To defeat Mike Tyson slash Mr. Dream with my eyes closed is a dream, I suppose.
So you're not going to get to see me beat Mike Tyson at a marathon ever blindfolded.
This will be the comic relief of the evening. I'm going to attempt to fight Mr. Dream with my eyes closed, and I'm going to lose in approximately 30 seconds.
I'll fight him blindfolded just for fun, but you know, this is the blindfolded part.
In June 23rd, 2023, Mike Tyson's Punch-Out on the NES was not only beaten from start to finish, but was done by a 15-year-old at the time completely blindfolded. As you can tell from the video, he was pretty excited. Yes! But the first question that you're probably wondering is, how? I mean, Punch-Out is already a difficult game to beat with your eyes open, so how in the world do you do it blindfolded? Well, surprisingly, the speedrunning community for Mike Tyson's Punch-Out actually started going for blindfolded runs when one of its runners, Sinister1, attempted to beat the game blindfolded at a charity marathon. This was all the way back in 2012, and it would take about 2 or 3 years until eventually people managed to beat the entire game blindfolded. But this was like a handful of people. Like, out of the millions of Punch-Out players there was, only 10 people could actually beat this game blindfolded. Well, 11 now because of, you know, the kid. Most people don't really know Punch-Out though, so this probably sounds irrelevant, but we just gotta understand the historical context first before we can get into the actual analysis of the video. I can show you the raw footage of the kid beating the game blindfolded, and although it looks impressive, it can be pretty hard to grasp what exactly is going on since most people don't know how Punch-Out works. Don't worry though, I'll be breaking down every single strategy he used, because that was me, so that you aren't completely confused on what the hell is going on. I'll try to keep this video brief so it won't be too long. Yes, I'm gonna summarize some parts and assume you know how video games work, but you should be fine for the more complicated stuff because I'll just lay it all down for you. Not like that. In the video, before I start off my actual run, I play around with my keys for a bit, which you can see light up on the side of my screen as it emulates an NES controller before starting the actual run. The main story of Punch-Out is that you're this boxer named Little Mac who wants to be the world champion. But to do that, you'll need to beat 3 circuits called the Minor, Major, and World Circuit, each with their own boxers and champions. The whole game consists of you beating each boxer and traversing up every circuit until you become the champion. The gameplay involves you controlling Little Mac as you punch and avoid being punched. To do this, you can dodge by pressing left or right on the controller so Little Mac is out of the way. You can block by holding down on the controller, which negates some damage, except for uppercuts. And the last thing you can do is a duck, where if you hit down twice on the controller, Little Mac will hit the limbo to get out of the way a tad bit longer than a dodge. Of course though, Punch-Out wouldn't be complete without punches, which Little Mac can perform with the click of a button. An NES controller has 2 buttons, left and right, which corresponds to which arm Mac uses to punch. You can punch a boxer in the gut like this, but to hit him in the face, you'll need to hold up on the controller while you're punching so Mac can jump in the air for a hit. Yeah, that's right, they don't call him Little Mac for nothing. This guy is short. Now there's one simple strategy that you'll need to know that is absolutely essential for blindfolded Punch-Out, and that's the act of buffering inputs. The strategy for buffering inputs though is actually pretty simple. The way it works is that when you perform an input, like a face punch, the game will run it, and while it goes off, you can let go and hold for another face punch after that, so when the first face punch is done, the second one is followed up with no delays in between. This means that you can chain together a bunch of inputs with no delay, which is essential for trying to time punches strategically in Punch-Out. Take Glass Joe for example, the first opponent in Punch-Out for the minor circuit. He doesn't really do too much, but in the 40-second mark, Glass Joe will step back to do a taunt before coming in again. When he does this, there's actually a 4-frame window in which Glass Joe can be hit and knocked down in just one shot. And that's not all too, because when the ref counts all the way to 10, Glass Joe won't get up, meaning that the entire match against him is over. So landing this punch at the 40-second mark is crucial to a short and easy fight. But how would you time this 4-frame window to get it every time? Well, buffering punches will use up the same amount of time every time. So if you start off the actual fight against Glass Joe with 22 left face punches, 1 left gut punch, and 2 right gut punches, which is when Glass Joe steps back, then you'd perfectly time hitting Glass Joe in the gut to knock him out. And that's basically how buffering works. If you're able to remember the long chain of inputs, then you can time precise punches like these for quick and easy knockouts. This setup is pretty well known and is used in basically every Punch-Out run, including mine. Okay, but technically there's actually 2 delays Glass Joe can have where he takes a little bit longer than he should, but I didn't get that on my run, so I don't care. Anyways, the next boxer in the minor circuit is some German dude named Von Kaiser. He's another relatively easy boxer with a simple pattern, but his only difference to Glass Joe is that he actually throws punches in the first 40 seconds. They're really slow and easy to predict though, so for the first few seconds of my run, I just alternate between gut punches and face punches on Von Kaiser. After 8 punches though, I get awarded with this thing, called the Star Punch. A star punch and punch out is basically an uppercut that Lil Mac can perform to deal a massive amount of damage or even knock out opponents during a fight. There's a tracker on the top left corner that can go up to 3 to keep count of how many stars you have. They're pretty powerful, but the only downside to them is that it takes a second to charge up, leaving you vulnerable to an attack, and if you do get hit, you'll lose one of your stars. Now the way to get star punches is kinda confusing. You can either get it by canceling an opponent's punch, or through RNG, or just some random like rule that the opponent has. I don't know, it's kinda weird. But anyways, I'm telling you this because for some reason, if you get 8 hits on Von Kaiser, the game like literally gives you a star for it, which is what I got here, and I actually got another one right after, which is pretty cool. He throws a punch here, which I punch and counter with a star that sends him down. Now a little fun fact for punch out is that if a boxer gets up on a 1 count, they can be knocked out with a single star punch. I'm not really too sure why it's like that, but I also don't really care, so I counter Von's uppercut and send him down again. To beat your opponent in punch out, you either KO them and hope they won't get back up, which is pretty rare, but if you get them 3 times in a row, then it's considered a technical knockout and you'd automatically win the match. That's basically what I'm going for in every fight, so when I knock out Von here, the match ends in a win for me since I knocked out Von for the 3rd time, ending the match in a TKO. After that though, we finally make it to the champion of the minor circuit, that being Piston Honda, who's actually a pretty difficult boxer in the game. The main reason for that is because unlike Glass Joe and Von Kaiser, Piston Honda actually has a lot of randomness to his attacks, which I'll get into later. Before that though, we first have to discuss another strategy which can be used on Piston Honda called guard manipulation, where if you tap up on the controller, depending on what boxer it is, their guards will shift up to block any face punches you throw. You can manipulate this by moving their guard up before throwing gut punches, catching them off guard for some stars. They can be pretty hard to pull off while you're blindfolded, but I managed to do pretty well in my run. After this though, you can see that I fumble a bit here. I'll explain why later, don't worry, because this all has to do with Piston Honda's pattern. On the Punch Out speedrun wiki, you can see that Honda's pattern starts off with 2 jabs after he does nothing for a couple of seconds. I utilize those few seconds of nothing to get those star punches in, but I don't know when exactly he does his jabs or not, so I accidentally miss time and get hit by both of the jabs. Past here it gets kinda confusing, because after the jabs he has a 75% chance to do a hook, or just nothing. I took the more favorable route and hoped to get a hook, which he did luckily, and I countered it. After that, there's a 50% chance of him throwing another hook, a 3 out of 8 chance of him doing nothing, or a 1 out of 8 chance of him throwing an uppercut. I just kept going for stars on mine, and I think I kinda cancelled that out before moving over to either getting a high chance of a hook or an uppercut. I got the uppercut, but I didn't really know or care, so I countered it, and then after that it's basically the same thing. I think I would have been fine if you threw either of these. I probably just mistimed my dodges and got hit, but luckily it goes back to jabs here, which I countered to knock him out with a star punch. For the second phase, at the 1 minute mark, Honda has this thing called the Honda Rush, where he steps around before coming in to deliver a bunch of punches. There's actually another small window right here where you can counter him to knock Piston Honda down. I tried that in my run, but unfortunately, since it's manually timed, I fucked it up and I had to keep blocking to stop all his punches. At this point of the run, I was kind of panicking since usually I would have him down by now, so I tried my best to dodge and counter, but unfortunately, it doesn't work and I get knocked down.
Wow, he is really slow. I do not know what he's doing. Doesn't matter too much though.
I say that because it's still really hard to lose to Honda if you're good enough at the game, and you can see here I repeat my starting strategy and knock him down again, which is really necessary here because TKOs don't carry over for every round. And since every round has 3 in-game minutes, which are faster, it wasn't looking too good for me right now. I can't see me losing this, it's just that I don't want it to take too long. When he comes back I do my usual thing, but unfortunately he does another Honda Rush, which I block instead of countering because I know that as long as I hit him after this, then I'm done.
Oh, seriously? Okay, I'll move on to the second round. Okay, this is basically just wasting time now.
I feel the exact same way editing this, younger me. When we make it to the second round, I do my usual starting pattern to get a quick knockout. Cool thing here though is that Honda gets up on a 1 count, which means that even if he's got that much health, I star is all it takes to KO him again. So I get some free damage in before throwing my star punch.
Except for Sandman. Sandman's actually not that hard. But yeah, other than that. You get up on a 1 count?
Yep, Honda actually gets up on a 1 count here, which surprised me, so instead I just throw a star punch and that's it, TKO. The round goes to me. For most people that can beat Punch Out, doing this section blindfolded, even without practice, is still pretty simple. But that all changes when we move on to the major circuit. Kinda. Okay, so the major circuit and punch out is pretty cool because you have to go through 4 different unique boxers this time. And for the first 3, they're so ridiculously simple. Not saying that some of the stuff now was easier, but these guys in punch out is what I refer to as the filler section because it's just a whole bunch of easy but long fights that just eat up time. We start off the major circuit with Don Flamenco, who's literally the easiest boxer in the entire game. Don Flamenco's entire strategy throughout the match is just taunting you, so when you punch, he can retaliate and hit you back. The way to beat him though is to retaliate his retaliation for a bunch of punches. This is the main strat, by the way, you just keep punching him in the face until he gets knocked out. The only good thing about Don is that if you beat him fast enough, he won't get up on the second knockdown, so when he comes up to punch you, whoa, surprise attack, you can just beat him really easily. It's not even close. That's it, by the way. That's the entirety of Don Flamenco. We're never seeing him again after this. This is it. After that, we move on to King Hippo, who is a pretty interesting looking boxer. The issue with him is that you can't punch him at all. Like, I don't think you can get any star punches on him. He kind of bobs around like a brute before punching you. The only way you can actually get a hit on him though is that when he opens his mouth, he'll freeze for like half a second, which is when you hit him in the jaw or his pants fall off. Yes, this happens, alright? Stay with me. And when he's exposed, when he's stunned, you can punch him in the gut 8 times for some damage. It's pretty simple, but the big issue here is that even though you can hear King Hippo open his mouth when he punches, people don't time the face punch by the noise. We usually just time it by the little jig he does here. So instead, we use something else from Mac to our advantage. You ever notice that next to the star counter there's a little health thing here? Well, that's actually the stamina for Little Mac. It's what allows him to punch, but it goes down depending on if the opponent blocks your hit or you just get punched in the face. When Little Mac runs out of stamina, he goes pink and is unable to punch for a few seconds. A cool thing to note is that the opponent's pattern actually changes here to be more on the offensive when Mac runs out of stamina. This is true for King Hippo, who throws open mouth punches until Little Mac restores his stamina. Now this is good for us because even if we're blindfolded, we know what he's throwing. So for the first 2 punches, we dodge them to get our stamina back, and then we retaliate for the third one to get some damage in. There's a buffer to time this third punch, but I decided to do it manually for some reason. I don't really know why I did this because this King Hippo fight, even though it looks easy, is actually like kinda difficult. I nailed it anyways for every single punch and managed to knock King Hippo out. And what's even better here is that since King Hippo is such a fat fuck, he won't be able to get up and the round will go to me. Now at this point we're about halfway through the major circuit, and luckily the next fight after this is still just as easy. The next opponent is Great Tiger, the guy that boxes with a turban on. He actually has a lot to him, but you can knock him out in under a minute with a buffer pattern that's really easy to follow. Now Great Tiger's main quirk is that his jewel flashes when he's about to jab you, but if you hit him in the face while it's flashing, you'll get a star. He repeats his pattern for like a minute, but you can knock him out during this because it takes 3 dodges until his jewel flashes, which you can then just punch him in the face to get a star. Except for the starting flash for some reason, which takes 3 dodges and a quick dodge. Whoa, this is new. A quick dodge, by the way, is basically a dodge, but halfway through you click up on the controller to move right back into the middle. They're usually used by speedrunners so that you're not wasting frames, but we can use this here though to time this punch correctly for a star. So for the start of the fight, I dodged 3 times before doing a quick dodge to get a star. And then I dodge 3 times again to get another star, do it again one more time, and then here I throw a star punch and dodge twice for another star because throwing a star punch takes as long as a dodge. I do it again and then one more time after that to land the final hit to KO Great Tiger. Now after this, the fight becomes ridiculously easy because Great Tiger gets up on a 1 count, and you should know what that means by now. But what's even better is that he does it again, so after that star punch, that's it, Great Tiger is done. He was starting right. There you go, he's done. And with that, we finally conclude the filler section of Punch-Out as we move on to a surprisingly really tough boxer. The major circuit champ is this guy named Bald Bull because he's, you know, bald. He also has a pattern to remember, but before we get to that, there's actually a buffer strategy at the start of the match that you'll need to know. When you start the match, Bald Bull begins his attack by throwing a bunch of rolling jabs. You can counter them pretty easily for a free hit, but you can also cancel the jab for a free star. So a strategy was created pretty early on by the Punch-Out speedrunners, which was to buffer 2 face punches, a star punch, face punch, another star punch, face punch, another star punch, face punch, and then when Bull drops his guard, you throw another face punch to KO him. I do something pretty close to this, but instead of timing the last punch, I play it safe and throw a star punch because I'm a pussy. We get the knockout anyways, and from here, we move on to Bull's actual pattern, which is pretty simple, but messing it up once can completely ruin a run. He starts off with 2 hooks, both that are pretty easy to counter since you can buffer 2 dodges, but after here, there's a high chance of him throwing a hook or an uppercut. Oh wait, no, never mind. I punch him in the face at the start. But after that, he starts following his usual pattern. I dodge the first hook and counter, and then I dodge the second one and counter again, Here he can either pause and go back to rolling jabs or throw another hook. That's why I actually paused here for a bit so I could hear what he was throwing. But eventually when I realize it's the hook, I counter. After that is the uppercuts, which usually happens in 2s and 3s. So I counter the first one, and then I counter the second one. But after that, Bull goes back to his normal pattern. You can see me wait here, thinking he was going to throw an uppercut, but no, this is my first mistake. And after that, it just all goes downhill from there. I get hit by the first hook, I'm dazed and confused, but I managed to dodge the second hook, but I don't counter it until I realize, oh shit, he just threw a hook. But my delayed punch accidentally counters his third hook before he goes into his uppercuts, which I do not expect at all, but luckily Bull only threw one uppercut before going back to his starting pattern. I'm confused as fuck, but I managed to dodge and counter the first hook, but then I fuck up the buffer for the second hook and I get hit. So now I start dodging because I'm expecting the third hook, but Bull throws me off here and does the rolling jabs instead, messing me up until I realize what's going on and start countering again. He goes back to his usual pattern after that, which I missed time, but for the second hook I manually timed the dodge because I'm already all out of whack with my buffers, and I do just enough damage to not knock him out. He's literally one hit. I'm probably already annoyed and I forget to freaking buffer to dodge the hook or the jab or the whatever. I don't know. It's actually a hook, but unfortunately I get hit. I start freaking out because I know that at the 2-minute mark, Bald Bull has his own little thing that he does that completely could just ruin my run. Basically, it's this thing called the bull charge where he steps back, waits a bit before coming at you with an uppercut hook that can just like immediately knock you out. The only good thing about it is that you can counter it and have Bald Bull get knocked out too. Now for blindfolded runners, this is a big no because there's a very small window to time this that you can't buffer, meaning I had to time it manually. So I take my chances and mess it up. Nope. Oh, this is going terribly. I get up though and manage to KO Bull with that little bit of health he had, but when he gets up, I'm just hoping I can knock him down before following the main pattern, but unfortunately, I get another bull charge here, which is basically just death, and since I got KO'd 2 times already, this last one would be a TKO and I just lose. I lost, didn't I? I can't believe it. Fuck it, I'm gonna just keep going, I don't care. Even today, I still remember being frustrated that I lost. I thought about restarting and trying another run, but decided not to since I knew the game technically wasn't over. Luckily for Punch-Out, you can lose, but it won't be a game over. When you fail against a boxer, you either get a rematch or are knocked down a position. When you lose twice, then you're knocked down 1 or 2 positions, and for the third, it's a game over, which would mean you have to restart on a new game. For me, this was my first, meaning that if I lost 2 more matches, the game would be over. I was knocked down a position and was forced to fight Grey Tiger again, but we obviously know how easy that is, so I was able to push through. This would give me another chance against Bald Bull where hopefully I wouldn't lose and get a win just before the 2-minute mark so I wouldn't have to face the bull charge. I'll cut to my gameplay, but just so you can remember, this is how the pattern goes after the first knockdown. I really feel like just restarting this. If I'm not going to, I'll just keep going. I just want to get this done. Oh my god, I was bad too. Come on, baby. Okay, nice, whatever. After timing the bull charge with nothing but my own intuition, I finally got the third knockout I needed to TKO Bald Bull. Although, you can hear in the video I sound pretty dismissive, even though I timed a really difficult punch. And that's because Bald Bull is really just the start of the actual difficult fights in Punch-Out, which is to be seen in the World Circuit. Now the World Circuit is, no joke, the hardest section in Punch-Out, excluding Tyson. There are many reasons for this. First one being that the minor circuit had 3 boxers, the major had 4 boxers, while the world circuit has a total of 6 boxers. And unlike easy opponents like Great Tiger and King Hippo, these guys had long and complicated patterns for NES standards, which are hard to make into easy fights. But yeah, let's not waste too much time and actually get into this section, the hardest section in Punch-Out. For the first fight in the world circuit, we have Piston Honda. Wait a minute. Yeah, you kind of forget sometimes that this game was actually made in the late 80s and they couldn't just, keep making new boxers, so they had to start repeating some to save memory. Now this is when the run actually starts because this man has been on the most intense training arc before this. In my run, I try my best to raise Honda's guard to sneak in some star punches in during those first few seconds of waiting until Honda does his eyebrow pattern. You can actually hit him in the face while he's doing this, so I throw a star punch to get some more damage in before continuing to hit him in the face for more stars. From here, he can either have a short or long delay before throwing uppercuts. I dodge and hope for short, but I get the long. Yeah, it's bad, but whatever, dodge and counter the second one. After that, he can go back to uppercuts, or higher odds, he goes back to his eyebrow pattern. I take his silence for the eyebrow pattern, which it is, but I actually you can see here for a second I try to go for a face punch, but Honda throws his jab way faster than I expected and I get hit. That's another difference, this dude is way faster. I try to duck, but I run into his first uppercut, which is pretty bad, but I know what's happening next, so I just counter the second uppercut. You see me punch for a bit and then pause to throw my star, but ooh, no star. I can't tell because I can't see, so I just hit him instead. Until, oh shit, we're at the 1 minute mark, and we know what that means, it's the Honda rush. I wasn't ready for it, so me getting this right was really low. I mean, I think it's harder at times, since unlike the first one, he doesn't hop around. He just comes in so quickly that hitting him was nearly impossible. Alright, whatever, that works. He's knocked out, by the way, landing that hit just kills him. There you go, it's Piston Honda 2 down. Pretty easily, actually. So, little thing about Honda 2 is that if you counter his Honda rush, he's kind of incapacitated for the rest of the match. So, yeah, that's it. We can just move on from him. The next boxer in the world circuit is this guy named Soda Popinski. Now this guy is an actual roadblock, mainly due to the fact that he has some randomness to him that's really not necessary or needed, especially for blindfolded punch-out runners. I remember having a hard time beating this guy with my eyes open because he's so fast and he does so much damage and he's Russian and he's pink. He's a lot of things, but most of all, he's random. That's the important part. What you need to know about Soda Popinski is that for some reason, when you hold down while he goes down for an uppercut, you kind of just freeze him in place for a bit. I don't know why they did it like that, but while he's frozen, you can counter him for a star punch. And this star punch, again for some reason, instantly knocks him out when thrown. So the strategy for Soda is that you knock him out twice doing this, then you get intentionally knocked out, because from here, Soda has a different pattern when you get up, which is just uppercuts. So you can counter that and use the star to knock him out for the third time. Now the reason you get knocked out for the third part is because Soda, after his starting pattern of 2 hooks before going to uppercuts, is super random. Okay, look, let me just quickly get the wiki out for the patterns, right? Okay, see this? He starts off with 2 hooks, and then after that, there's 4 different delays and what he could do. And they're all 25% chance of each, right? There's no one big delay that he might have. They're all evenly spread out. And then after that, there's a 75% chance of him doing 2 uppercuts, and then a 25% chance of him doing hooks. What the fuck is all of this randomness, right? Because the thing is for Soda, when he goes down for the uppercut, you can't pause him there forever. So you gotta hold it down long enough to make sure he's down there, frozen, so you can so you can get the star punch on him. But then you also got because there's 4 different delays. There can be a short one, a slightly shorter one, there can be a long one, and there can be the longest one. And it's you just gotta hope you're holding the down button long enough for either of those. And that he gets an uppercut too, that he actually does the uppercut part. 'Cause if he goes back to hooks, then you're just repeating this pattern all over again. And it's just why would you ever do it like this? Why? So when we get up from the KO, we know he's gonna throw uppercuts. It's guaranteed, which is why people go for it, because the original strategy of trying to get uppercuts each time is too risky. So what do I do in my run? I just completely forget and start doing the wrong strategy. So instead of taking damage as I should, I dodge and just wait and hope I get the right delay. Luckily I did, and I get the first KO. At this point here, I start to get a little confused because I, kind of realized that I didn't do something right there, but fuck it, we ball, we're doing it again. So I just repeat my first strategy, and unfortunately he throws his hooks this time, which I cancel out. So now I'm waiting again, and then just at the last frame when he's about to hit me while I'm still holding down like an idiot, I realize, oh shit, he's throwing an uppercut, and I counter it, get the star, knock him out, whatever, we got it. So for the third phase, I just start fighting him normally because in my mind, I haven't been knocked out yet, and if he does get me, it's all good. I already know what he's gonna do. I actually started playing the game normally for once and not worrying too much about being hit because it's whatever, it's all part of the plan. Eventually, I do get knocked out, but I already knew that his health was low, so as long as I get up and get enough hits, I should be fine.
Whatever, that works. Knocked him out.
When I look back at this, I'm honestly just glad that I made it. Past him though, we'd almost be at the halfway point, but this next guy is not an easy fight because it's Bald Bull again. I still have PTSD from the last fight. Now this time, Bald Bull has some stupid thing to him, and that's the fact that if you knock Bull's health down to 0, he doesn't get knocked out at all. He just heals it and keeps going. The actual way to knock him out is with a star punch. Now how does the game tell you this? Well, every time you resume the match, or just randomly for Bull, he'll start rubbing his ears, which you can hit him for a free star. If you remember though, getting hit while you have a star gets rid of it, so you gotta make sure to grab the star and not get hit for most of the match before throwing it when Bull's health is low. Now obviously I'm blindfolded, so I can't fucking tell, meaning I had to just take an educated guess with my 3 years of punch-out experience on when his health is low. His pattern isn't even that much different either. He starts off the match with his usual jabs, but after that it's 2 hooks, and then a pause in which you can either do another hook for his uppercut pattern, or maybe doing the ear rub where he pauses to do this again before moving on to rolling jabs. Now I already know how to counter rolling jabs from Bold 1, so obviously I fumble it here with Bold 2 until I get the free star. He does that extra jab for no reason here before moving on to his 2 hooks. I dodged the first one, but when I realized that I was supposed to counter it, I fumble and get hit by the second hook. God, how is this the run that got me to the end? I at least counted the 3rd hook and the 2 uppercuts, which are guaranteed. He throws 2 and has a pretty small chance of repeating it, which he obviously doesn't. It goes back to the ear rubs thing before doing the 2 hooks, and I get hit by the first one because I'm pretty sure buffering dodges on the first hook doesn't actually work. It does for the second one, and while I wait for the 3rd, I notice a lack of anything and immediately punch because I know he's doing the ear rub pattern. This then goes into his jabs, which I counter really weirdly for some reason, but it doesn't matter. I counted the first hook and bullets down.
I don't know what he was doing there, but I was able to figure it out. I don't know.
Now, looking at the time, we're pretty close to the 2-minute mark, which means another bull charge, which I'm not scared about. Come on, I've counted it before, I'm goated. I'm kidding, obviously, don't worry, but it's actually really easy to counter, which I'll show you after I get a free star and get 2 hooks here, and that's because if you dodge Bull's first charge, the second one is so much easier to hit for some reason, even when you're blindfolded. And the way I time is that literally when I hear the sound of Bull coming down on me, pause, is when I throw my punch.
Okay.
This gets me the second knockdown on Bull, and now the only issue here is getting that last KO on Bull since, you know, we're pretty low on time. Fortunately, I know enough of the game to understand that I have a star, I'm about to get another one, and Bull's health is low enough for me to use both of them to KO him.
Whew, alright, I kind of froze.
This finally concludes Bald Bull, which was already an annoying guy to deal with. I mean, he literally just comes back out of nowhere. How does that even work? It makes as much sense as the next opponent being Don Flamenco or something. Oh yeah, right. Yep, Don is back. Yay. For this second Don, he actually has a pattern here for once instead of just, you know, standing there. Not saying he doesn't do that later though, because at the 130 mark of round 1, he just goes back to his old tactics. But before that, he actually has a main pattern that is like ridiculously simple. He starts the match off with a jab, and if you block it, he throws a hook right after. Before I start my explanation, we first gotta address what the fuck is happening to my health here. It's actually a cool little random secret where if you press select before starting the match, which you saw me just spam repeatedly, then we begin the match with my health depleting down to half of what it was. I was supposed to do the same thing with Soto Popinski, even though I, you know, fucked it up, and that's because we're taking an intentional knockout here. I'll get to that part when we get to it, but first I counter his jab, and then his hook right after before repeating this process to get my first knockout. Once he gets up, I already know that we're close to the 130 mark, so I try to stretch out my last few punches so we can get to his taunting pattern. Now unlike the first Don, this second Don doesn't actually retaliate from every punch, but there's usually a high chance that he will. Or so I thought until Don Flamenco blocks every single punch I throw until Lil Mag runs out of stamina, and then he continues blocking until he then finally starts to retaliate.
You hate to see it, dude. Oh my god. That was so unlucky, dude.
I know I already said it before, but like seriously, this was like the most unluckiest thing to ever happen in this run. I'm not even joking, like how low a chance this was.
That was so bad, dude. I can't even heal up here, too.
Yeah, so like Soda strat, I was supposed to KO him and then he'd KO me so that I could counter Don's opening strat, which unfortunately didn't go well. For the second round, Don just continues doing nothing and waiting, meaning that this whole section I'm just doing what I did before because I'm just tired and annoyed, man. I get my KO on him, but sometime later he eventually gets his KO on me, which means I could finally show you what I was trying to do in round 1, where he tries to throw a hook, but I counter punch it and keep doing this 7 times because he doesn't stop for some reason, before dodging and countering the 8th. Now for here, I'm just trying to do as much damage as I can from countering, but at the 210 mark, he actually goes back to his normal pattern. I try to dodge and stuff, but my stamina's low, and eventually I get knocked out again, but this actually isn't that bad because, you know what, I can just repeat what I did before and get the TKO and Don Flamenco. Oh my god, okay. Holy shit, I actually did that. Now this fight was a complete disaster, again, like many of my other fights, but you know what, I carried it in the end, and I don't care. The only good thing here is that we have only 2 boxers left before Tyson. The next opponent is finally some new guy, whose name is Mr. Sandman, and is like probably the most intimidating boxer in the game. The only issue is that it takes forever to KO him because of how hard it is to do damage. He starts off with 5 jabs before pausing, and then doing 5 jabs again. You can't buffer dodge out of it. I timed it, it doesn't work. So for my run, I get hit by a couple of them because, I don't know, I just have terrible timing. Past the 50-second mark, Sandman throws hooks, but you can trap him in a loop by throwing a punch and then dodging and countering his retaliation like I do. That's basically what I'm doing here, but in the video I fumble occasionally because, you know what, quick dodging blindfolded is hard, okay? My main priority was getting him knocked down before the 130 mark because Sandman has his own little special move called the Dreamland Express. You can tell when he's about to do it when he starts blocking your first punch. But the thing is that it's completely random and when he's going to throw it. If you do dodge in time, you'll be able to hit Mr. Sandman's gut repeatedly for some damage, but if you miss, then he just hits you. When I noticed, I swing at his face twice and then begin to dodge. This was me trying to go for a more favorable delay. Unfortunately though, this doesn't work and I almost get knocked out, but luckily Sandman goes back to his usual pattern, so I just keep doing what I usually do. This doesn't last long though, and eventually I get knocked out. What the fuck? I got hit by that? I start getting a little confused here because this was the first time I fumbled this bad. Again, I have no idea how I made it in this run. Luckily I was able to get a KO on Sandman though, which was pretty good. When he gets up though, it's basically the same strategy until we end on a pretty mediocre note in round 1. Anyways, remember when I said pressing select lowers your health? Well, if you actually press it between matches, this actually heals Mac and the amount is completely random. That's basically what I do before the next match to get some health, and then I just repeat the same thing over and over again until eventually I get a knockout. But when Sandman gets up, he gets ready for another Dreamland Express, which I try to dodge yet again as I hope to do a bunch more damage, only to fail and go back to the same thing over and over. After some time, I eventually get another knockout, but now when Sandman comes back, he does, you know, another Dreamland Express, which hits me so quickly, I didn't even realize it for a second. Doesn't matter though, it's my first KO for this match. My only issue is that I didn't want it to go to the 3rd round because eventually Mac gets too tired to get up. When I make my way back, it's the same thing again, and I simply just try my best to beat him before the timer hits 3 minutes. Is that just not working anymore? Oh my god, I thought we were gonna go round 3 with him. Oh, this run has been a roller coaster of emotions, dude. Although I'm happy here, I'm also greatly afraid of the champion of this circuit. My performance for the minor and major circuit guys already wasn't that good, but out of my 12 attempts, I bet half of them failed because of this guy. Super Macho Man. He is as unrealistic as he is hard when fighting blindfolded. His pattern involves throwing 3 punches, which can either be a hook or a left or right uppercut. From there, he has like a 1 in 3 chance of repeating, or instead throwing 2 uppercuts before doing a mini spin punch. Now we really don't want to deal with this mini spin punch because it's random when he throws it and it takes out half of your health. See, I can deal with all of this just fine because the hooks and uppercuts come out at like relatively the same time, they're easy to dodge, and 9 times out of 10 I usually don't get hit. Stars are also possible on Macho Man through guard manipulation as well as retaliation punches, but you need to time it just right to get the star. There is buffers to time these, like for uppercuts. If you do a quick dodge before punching, you can get a star. That's why when I start the match, you kind of just see me freeze because I was trying to go for a star and then I just fumbled. Eventually, I get back into my rhythm and do some good damage, but then, you know, here comes the first uppercut. And here's the second. Yep, we're there already. I was surprised, but I try to manipulate Macho Man's guard here to get stars as well as throwing punches because I do not want to get in. Oh, you see that? You see that jitter? That was him trying to throw his mini spin, which I managed to cancel out. He goes back to his usual pattern here, so I just keep repeating what I do and eventually I get a knockout. Okay, I know Macho Man has a lot of things to him already, but there's one more thing. He has a special move, right, that he does every time he gets up called the super spin punch. He'll enter the match and step back to prepare himself before swinging a minimum of 3 times. The actual count is random. And once he stops, you can hit him in the face for some damage. Now what makes these spins super is that it doesn't take half your health, but instead the whole fucking bar. Yeah, one touch or slip up and you're on the floor. That's what makes the fight the most worrying here for me, so I do some extra damage before preparing myself for the spin. I actually managed to counter it perfectly by my standards, and past this point it goes back to Macho Man's usual pattern, which was fine by me since I was able to play well enough to get my second knockout. Now, just like the first knockdown, Macho Man comes in to do a super spin like he usually does, but I managed to dodge it pretty easily again. My only worry here is that I won't be able to knock him out in time because as the round progresses, Lil Mac gets tired, and that's usually how I lose. No, dude, you've got to be kidding me. I've literally never got past Macho Man. I really thought that was gonna be it, dude. So although this looks like good progress for you guys, I've done it way too many times to know that things usually fall apart here when I get knocked out. Because yes, it gets to a point where Little Mac can't get up even if you spam your keys. When the second round starts, he does his usual pattern as I knock down the last sliver of health he had, which made me realize how ridiculously close I was to beating him. I get myself ready for the next spin. I've had a pretty good streak with dodging them, so hopefully I can keep it up. Which I do technically, but I forget to hit him, which throws me off for a second before I lock the fuck in because I really do not want to lose after all of this. I begin to slowly chip his health down as the match continues. He does freeze here for his mini spin, which I'm pretty sure was about to go off, but luckily my star punch stopped it in time. And so, I get ready for the third spin, hoping to counter and finally put an end to Macho Man. Oh my god. I actually fucking did it. I got past him. Okay. Hold on, I gotta get myself ready for this. Look, I was nervous, but I mean, I finally beat Macho Man. That's still a win to me, okay? It's just that following up Macho Man is the hardest boss in the entire game, as well as just in video game history in general. Well, okay, one of, but you get what I mean. My excitement was short-lived as I moved on to what was kind of the end of Punch-Out. Little Mac is the #1 boxer in the world until you get challenged by, you know, Mike Tyson. Unlike other boxers where I try to KO them quickly, for Tyson, I only really had one objective, which was to survive. A TKO is possible, but there's a chance of lasting all the way to round 3 and winning by decision if you have 5,000 points. Yeah, I don't really mention points because it doesn't really do much, and getting that much points is really easy on Tyson, so we're just gonna make it, okay? We're gonna make it all the way through 3 rounds. Round 1 is usually the hardest for Mike Tyson because he throws instant KO uppercuts repeatedly for half the match. And this isn't some special move he randomly does, like this is his pattern. He just swings these monster trucks of a punch right in Mac's underage face, meaning it only takes 3 hits here and that's it, the match is over. The only reason why people can make it through this game blindfolded every time is because fortunately, a buffer strategy was discovered to make it through this phase, thank god. You start the match by punching him in the face 3 times, and then a gut punch, 3 punches to the face, then another gut punch, 3 punches to the face, before doing a dodge and a face punch before throwing 4 gut punches. After that you dodge 5 times to avoid Tyson's 0 stamina pattern before retaliating and then burning your stamina again with 8 gut punches. This would trigger Tyson's 0 stamina pattern again, where you start dodging right 5 times and then retaliating. And then yeah, you just repeat this process one more time to get the clock over to 1:30 to escape the uppercut hell section of round 1. This buffer strategy isn't too complicated, but knowing that if I slip up once then it could just all fall apart here, I was still a little nervous. When the match starts, I stay dead silent for most of this and just listen to my inputs to know where I'm up to in the pattern. My only issue was that sometimes I wouldn't land the counter punch, which was a little worrying, but I still managed to clear my stamina in time for his pattern so I could dodge again and get some damage. It's a really long and drawn out process, but I didn't care. Failing this would have thrown the entire run. You can tell that I've practiced this a lot because I immediately switched gears to Tyson's second pattern when I assume it's past halfway. Unlike the first pattern, Tyson's second is actually pretty easy. He just throws hooks randomly and they don't really do as much damage. So instead of dodges, I do ducks instead because you're out of the way for longer, giving me more time to dodge Tyson's hook before countering. It's not the best strategy, but it's the only one that really works here, so I try to get as much damage as I can until finally I make it through round 1. Oh my god, okay, we made it past round 1. Man, I know that didn't look like much for you guys, but I'm telling you, I was so stressed with that section. I can't even explain it. Luckily, Tyson's uppercuts aren't instant KOs anymore, so that's pretty good. When Tyson starts the second round, he instead does 2 quick jabs before pausing and repeating for 30 seconds. These jabs can be blocked and counted for a star, but you also need to take into consideration a max stamina, because once that reaches 0, you won't be able to counter. From here, Tyson actually has a pattern for once where he can throw 3 hooks from his left or right hand before having a 1 in 4 chance of repeating it, or instead throwing 2 uppercuts and then another kind of punch before repeating the whole process again. This goes out through the entire match, but randomly Tyson can pause and blink a couple of times where punching him in the face gives you a star. He then retaliates with 4 quick punches and then 2 uppercuts, which I usually block and counter, before going back to his usual pattern. So my main focus for the second round was to stock up stars from his jabs before throwing them in his hook pattern to deal enough damage for a knockout. A TKO here is definitely possible, but it's pretty unlikely. I get some stars before dodging to save my stamina, which goes horribly wrong because I get hit. I try not to worry though and just keep dodging, eventually getting the last few stars I need before countering his first hook, and nope, never mind, I didn't. I keep dodging his hooks but not countering in time, which throws me off, and I start to get hit, so I'm just like dodging and throwing punches because I really want to get that star out, which I do after way too much time. He goes back to his hook pattern, which I just can't seem to counter, throwing me even further off until I get knocked out. I fucked that up so badly, are you kidding me? Yeah, I didn't really have high hopes for this. When I go back into the fight, it's just a repeat of before with me being way too slow in countering these hooks until Tyson does his blinking pattern, which he makes pretty obvious, and it's not too bad. I managed to deal with it pretty well. He follows it up with 2 uppercuts, which I know he's gonna do. So I deal with that, we go back to his usual pattern, but finally, I'm able to counter one of his hooks and get the knockout I needed. When Tyson comes back, we just awkwardly exchange punches for a bit, and I mess up every counter opportunity. This is mainly because I'm not quick dodging his punches, which saves way more time than normal dodging. Tyson does his blinking pattern here, and I managed to counter it pretty well before dodging his punches and maintaining my health until eventually the round ends. Oh my god, I thought I was dying there. I thought he was gonna punch me right in the face. Okay, okay. Heal up, heal up, heal up. Press and spam and select just to heal. I need a lot of health for this. Okay, come on. I'm really nervous, dude. Like, I've never gone this far. Yep, this was it. All I had to do was survive and I beat Mike Tyson's Punch-Out blindfolded. A few things to note though is that Tyson's pattern changes into something more simpler where he can throw basically whatever. He has a low chance of repeating this, or instead, he can go for another uppercut before pausing to throw 2 quick jabs. I'm not going to talk too much so you guys can experience it, so here it is. Okay. Oh, I've got to restart that. That was terrible. Oh my god, if I can get a TKO on this dude. I just want this done and over with, man. I've been doing this for like 3 months now. And I still haven't done it yet. Oh, dude, come on, please. Like I said, 12 other attempts I fucking failed in this game. I don't want to. I just want to get this over and done with, man. No, come on, please. Come on, dude. Is this a win or a loss? I can't see. I'm not looking. Yes! Fucking, oh my god. I actually did it. Wink. I fucking beat Mike Tyson's Punch-Out blindfolded.
I hope my mom doesn't get mad because I kind of yelled a bit too loud, but yeah, that's it. Finally fucking did it. I'll probably try again later just because, just so I can, you know, get rid of that one bit somewhere here.
So yeah, that's how I beat Punch-Out blindfolded. I uploaded the video a few days later and noted down my whole journey in the description. To sum it up though, I started playing Punch-Out in 2020 during lockdown when I had nothing to do. I wasn't allowed to buy games and stuff, so I looked online for like the hardest games ever, and Punch-Out was one of them, so I just practiced it online. 2 years later though, I'd eventually beat the game, and then I just moved on from it, but a video by SummoningSalt talking about the history of blindfolded Punch-Out made me think that it was kinda cool, and maybe I could try doing that. So I tried to copy the strats from that video into my actual runs to see how far I could get. SummoningSalt's former record on Punch-Out gave me the idea for the soda strat, which I didn't even do, but a massive help actually came from a whole different Punch-Out runner named Sinister1, who's made a whole series detailing how to beat this game blindfolded. I honestly should have came back to this video more because it is like super helpful, and I'd recommend it to anyone who would want to try this as well. I started practicing at the start of 2023 in my free time, but I never had any luck until we got all the way to June, where I beat it just a couple of days before turning 16. I made a 1-hour video after detailing how to beat the game blindfolded, but please don't watch it. It's really bad. I wasn't good at editing back then. The reason why I'm making this video today is because, well, before I was kind of shy about it, but I decided to make it now because my editing was getting better, and also my friends who have seen the video thought it was cool but didn't really know what was going on, so you know, here it is, just to explain everything. But yeah, that's basically it. My final words to anyone still watching is that no matter how crazy good someone is at something, that doesn't change the fact that they're still a human being with the same limitations as you. So if they can do something, then you sure as hell can too. That's all from me though. Thank you for watching. If you thought this video was cool, then there might be some other stuff you might like on my channel. I also got a Q&A in my post if you want to check that out. And I might be streaming on weekdays in the late morning AST to work on some other speedrun records. But yeah, that's it. Peace.